On January 15, 2023, an ATR 72-500 operated by Yeti Airlines crashed near Pokhara, Nepal, killing all 68 passengers plus 4 crew members. The plane was traveling from Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, to Pokhara, its second-largest city, which is nestled beneath the scenic Annapurna mountain range. This air tragedy that occurred in Nepal was the worst, but by far not the only one, since 1992. 915 people lost their lives during 104 aircraft crashes since 1955 as the Kathmandu Post reports. Luckily, the majority of crashes happened without casualties. Each crash is unique, but is there maybe something hidden in the background? Let's go and try to find out what's the possible background for this horror series of airline crashes with fatalities. We will not consider helicopter crashes as we cannot compare them to scheduled airline operations in many cases. Accidents with ultralight aircraft are not included, too. In the 90s of the last century there were in average approximate 1,200 casualties in the aviation worldwide each year. The worldwide average dropped down to 422 per year in the decade between 2010 and 2019, while the number of flights increased from 14 to 39 million. In the last decade there were 209 casualties in Nepal, which is a share of roughly 5% of all casualties in aviation worldwide, while the share of air movements is 0.1% only. The chance for a fatal accident is worldwide 1 out of 8.2 million passengers. In Nepal it is considerably higher. 215 lost life in commercial planes between 2010 and 2019 are equivalent with a statistical risk of approximately 1 to 63,000. 130 times higher than worldwide. It is international procedure that every crash will be investigated, remains of the crashed planes will be inspected, sometimes the destroyed planes will be built up again like a giant puzzle. So it can take years until the investigating authorities will publish the final report about a crash and often suggest improvements for the futures. Nepal is for tourists a very interesting country, rich of breathtaking nature and rich of culture. While the country's gorgeous nature draws tourists, it presents serious difficulties for aviation operators who must adapt to and manage the hostile environment. 8 of the 14 tallest mountains in the world, including Mount Everest or Sagarmatha, are found in Nepal, which is located between India and China. It's a hard climate that's almost unmatched for aviation operations, with abrupt weather changes that can lead to dangerous conditions. Is it so easy that we can say that in such an environment crashes cannot be avoided? No, it isn't, as we can see in other areas with challenging natures like PNG, Bhutan, the Andes area or Greenland. Shorter runways that can only accommodate turboprop-powered regional aircraft are frequently required for airports built in mountainous areas rather than longer runways that can accommodate huge jet airliners that can access larger towns in Nepal. For example, the airport of Lukla, the gate to Mount Everest, the single runway has a length of 1,729 feet or 527 meters only, with a gradient of 12% at an elevation of 9,334 feet or 2,845 meters. For comparison, the shorter southerly runway at London Heathrow is an astounding 11,800 feet or 3,796 meters long. While all arriving planes have to land uphill, all outgoing planes have to start downhill. Often one plane is approaching already while another is taking off. The Himalayan mountains that surround Lukla make it one of the most spectacular airports in the world. Quickly changing Himalayan mountain weather enables scheduled operation in Lukla before lunchtime only. As a result, Nepal's aviation companies have a wide range of aircraft in their fleets which can handle these conditions. Pilots must undergo specialized training to fly into or out of Lukla because there are no navigational aids or night flights from the Himalayan airstrip. The Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal requires that pilots have 150 short takeoff and landing flights in their books, at least 10 flights into Lukla with an instructor who is licensed in such operations, and at least 1 year of experience flying in Nepal. There is no space for pilot error with a wall on the other side of the runway that isn't a dramatic drop-off, low-pressure air at altitude, not to mention tricky approaches through the mountains. As a result, Nepal's aviation companies have a wide range of small aircraft in their fleets which can handle these conditions. One common aircraft utilized by Nepali carriers is the ATR-72. It is a small aircraft powered by 2 turboprop engines that can accommodate up to 78 passengers. These aircraft are produced by a joint venture between Leonardo in Italy and Airbus in France since 1988 and are sold in different variants to various airlines worldwide, and some of them operate flights under very challenging conditions too. The specific aircraft that crashed had been in service for 15 years, which is a reasonably average amount of time for an aircraft. More than 1,100 aircraft of this series were delivered until end of 2022. The safety records of this type are quite fair. There have been 11 accidents with casualties so far, before the Yeti Airlines crash. The reputation of the aircraft and its pilots is excellent. As we can see in the list of crashes, various types were involved in the statistics of horror. In the beginning, Douglas DC-3, later mainly Twin Otters and Dorniers 228, all planes which were used worldwide by commuter carriers since many decades. Even an Airbus 300 and an Airbus A310 are included, both in the year 1992, unfortunately without any survivors. Between 2010 and 2019, multi-engine aeroplanes were involved in the majority of crashes in Nepal. The high rate of crashes in Nepal is not a problem of a single type of aircraft or its number of engines. Since 1992, Nepal has encouraged foreign investment in its aviation industry. There are now 10 domestic and international airlines mentioned in the CAAN Aviation Safety Report 2022, as well as 12 operates of helicopters. Additionally, 29 foreign airlines fly into the capital of Nepal. Airport infrastructure development in Nepal has lagged well behind the increase in air traffic, despite the country's increasing accessibility and affordability of air travel. As a result, there is more traffic at airports, there is price competition among carriers, and safety records are suffering. If we put all of these accidents in a timeline, we will note that there has been a significant increase in the crash frequency since 1998. What happened in this year? Even as each accident has its own individual cause, but is there a connecting link? The Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal, CAAN, a government organization founded in 1998, is in charge of overseeing aviation regulations. From this moment on, we see an increased frequency of fatal airliner crashes. There were 2 years only in sequence without casualties, 2020 and 2021, probably because of reduced number in flights due to the corona pandemic. In fact, since 2000, the nation has reported increasing number of fatal and non-fatal accidents involving airplanes or helicopters, raising concerns about the efficiency of its aviation safety standards. Is it possible that the authority is somehow involved in the horrible development? As the Kathmandu Post issued on January 17, 2023, that all investigations and analyses show clearly that Nepal has not even tried to meet the bare minimum requirements to make its skies safer. The most straightforward approach to do this would be to divide the Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal, CAAN. Currently, the organization performs two functions: it provides services in addition to acting as a regulator. An enormous conflict of interest results from this. For instance, it has a responsibility as a regulator to guarantee that all aircraft operating on domestic routes are airworthy, which is a matter directly related to passenger safety. On the other hand, it manages all of the nation's airports as a service provider, a position where its focus is primarily on maximizing profits. The combination of maximizing profits and passenger safety may have a variety of unforeseen consequences. The fundamental reason the European Commission in December 2013 issued a broad ban on Nepali airlines from the 27-nation EU is the continuous concentration of these dual powers in the CAAN. Also requesting that Nepal divide the Civil Aviation Organization is the UN Aviation Monitor ICAO. For the past 15 years, there have been discussions about this. The Parliament Secretariat most recently placed two aviation measures on the agenda for a lower house sitting on March 1, 2022. However, the legislation was abruptly withdrawn by the then Tourism Minister Prem because several aviation regulator officials objected to the proposed division of their workplace. The proposed laws were then once more placed in long-term storage when Parliament was prorogued. There have already been far too many tragedies in Nepali skies that could have been avoided. However, prominent politicians and bureaucrats continue to thwart a reform that could save lives. Nepal had lobbied the European Commission for years to overturn its ban on Nepali airlines. Good luck moving forward. The country should immediately divide the CAAN, which might also remove it from the Commission's blacklist. It is a nightmare that the government is doing nothing about this, endangering the lives of up to 4 million passengers on Nepal's domestic flights each year. In an effort to draw in more tourists, the nation has looked into building new airports. However, not much has been done to increase passenger safety and comfort. For instance, the new Pokhara Airport, the place where the latest crash of Yeti Airlines happened, was hurriedly inaugurated on January 1, 2023 without having finished a crucial safety evaluation simply so the new Prime Minister could do it upon taking office. This is the ideal time to press for the CAAN's separation as the nation mourns the victims of its worst domestic air catastrophe in history. There could be no better way to honor the passengers and the crew of that flight. If we have closer look to the reasons for each accident, then we note that loss of situational awareness has been mentioned in most cases. This indicates personal errors of the crews, of course, and hides the deeper problems of flight operations in Nepal. You can see that in a very high percentage of the accidents has happened en route, while worldwide, takeoff and landing are the most risky phases of a flight. Often pilots lost orientation in clouds while flying as per visual flight rules, VFR, or special situations overwhelming the involved persons, but which can be handled by well-trained crews and properly equipped airplanes. This is an indication that the training of the pilots or the specific equipment of the planes in Nepal is not satisfying. In my opinion, this shows a lack of supervision by the authority and ignorance of safety rules by some operators, probably caused by the still missing segmentation of the CAAN. A 5-person inquiry group has been established by the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and Civil Aviation to determine what caused the jet disaster that killed Yeti Air in May 2022. The air mishaps in Nepal are frequently attributed to bad weather. Its official name is Controlled Flight into Terrain, CFIT. The International Relations Committee of Parliament heard testimony from Pradeep Adhikari, Director General of the CAAN, who said that bad weather may have caused Yeti Air's pilots to make a navigational error and crash the jet into a mountainside. Sometimes, the breakdown of the plane's flaps and the absence of properly qualified pilots also contribute to crashes. In some circumstances, bad weather makes it difficult for the pilots to communicate adequately with the air traffic controller. Researchers have shown that when pilots are under pressure or in an emergency, they can have a misleading picture of the outside environment. This psychological component can be applied to the Terra Air crash landing pilots in May 22. The pilots created a fictitious mind map that led them into the thick clouds and challenging terrain, according to the speech recordings from the aircraft. After the crash of Terra Air in 2022 with 22 casualties, CAAN has changed flight permit rules in Nepal. The new regulations mandate that a flight must be operated in clear weather the entire way, and not only if the weather is suitable at the airports of origin and destination as before. According to the authority's Deputy Director General Devendra Lal Karna, the decision must be followed by all flights operating under VFR. But as per Nepali online platform onlinekhabar.com on May 31, 2022, the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology has stated that it cannot accomplish this because it lacks the technology and personnel to regularly provide CAAN with weather-related information. However, the department's meteorological division has been offering weather reports and forecasts for foreign flights as part of the Air Weather Service. But the department has stated that it has been giving general weather information only, and briefings to domestic aircraft, and that it can only provide CAAN with this information since it is understaffed. To prevent possible plane crashes, the government should make investments in aviation infrastructure, weather forecasts, current technology, pilot and engineer training, the implementation of safety procedures, and finally they have to split up CAAN to avoid any conflicts of interests. Please like this video and subscribe the channel if you like my work. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon again at this channel.